why don't I do our welcome, huh?
You get it.
All right, welcome everybody to Tea Time at the Apothecary. I'm TQ. This is my brother JQ. We're coming at you live from Merz Apothecary in Chicago and smallflower.com. We do this every Wednesday and Friday, noon Central Time on Facebook Live and other platforms. And we have a cup of tea, we catch up, we talk about
You
life.
like my soundtrack? Can you hear it or no?
No. Nice. I like it. And we also, we talk wellness, we geek out on nerdy topics, and we have some amazing guests. And today we have one of our favorite guests. Why don't you bring him on, Jay, and we'll talk about him.
Yeah. Welcome. Jerry. Come on in.
Yeah, there we are.
Hey, Jerry. How you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks. How about y'all?
Good, good. Nice to see you again.
Likewise.
Your beard is looking excellent, by the way. I'm digging the braid.
Definitely growing out.
Yeah. I've never, that's one beard option that I have not, I pride myself on having done just about everything there is to do in men's grooming, but you set out a new goal for me sometime in the coming years of the beard braid.
Yeah,
not one that I pulled off.
I was pretty close this quarantine.
Yeah, right.
And then I don't know, I freaked out. I had to lose it.
Well, there's some care involved for sure, but actually it makes it a lot easier in the morning. Just throw some conditioner in there and then put it in a braid, and I don't have to worry about it. It stays out of the way. It's,
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and you can flog yourself if you've been bad. That's the nice thing, right?
I think I can almost like get my nose with it.
Or tickle your nose, whatever.
You could do like a little aromatherapy on the edge.
Actually.
Throughout the day.
Right?
Yeah. Cool. Jerry, your bio, I know we've talked to you before, your bio is massive. Like I could spend the next 20 minutes reading the bio. It's so impressive. So I'm going to let you do the introduction, then we'll have some questions about who you are and sort of, we'll get into why we're talking to you.
Perfect. I have been working with Host Defense Mushrooms now for over 8 years. I'm currently the head of education, which is a lot of fun. We do all kinds of outreach to consumers, retailers, practitioners, and we give them the lowdown on mushroom mycelium, mushroom fruit bodies, and how we can use them in our day-to-day health and wellness. Educationally, I have an undergraduate and a graduate degree from Boston University. My graduate degree is in rehabilitation, counseling, and medicine. I have studied Western herbalism, traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, and for the past 30 plus years, I've had a private practice that has integrated both Western and Eastern, Ayurveda. Like, it's really just a complementary and integrative healthcare practice. I still have it. It's pretty small because I spend most of my time with Host Defense, but I have some patients that have been with me for years that really don't want to give me up, and we work with that. And sometimes it's just, if you have a connection, you work with it and you help people take life in a beautiful way.
No doubt. No doubt. That's special. I know that having had a few people like that in my life that were practitioners that I became, sort of became integral parts of my life and actually often become friends because you get to know each other so well. That's a really beautiful thing and something that I'm sure you value as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. These are like, they're pretty much family to me at this point. Working with someone for 20 years, you see them shift their whole world and their life, and it's amazing to see how people can go from having been really negatively impacted by any number of factors, and slowly shift and change and really recreate their whole world and life around them. It's a beautiful relationship, and to observe that, it's quite amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we want to dive into the mushrooms and the health side of things today.
Yeah,
I know that, there's a lot of questions we have for you. And I think given the season, we'll probably talk a lot about immunity in mushrooms.
for sure.
But why don't we start with just talking about what we're drinking today? Are you drinking anything?
I am in my Topsfield Fair, America's oldest fair mug. I actually
Cool.
grew up near Topsfield, Massachusetts, and have been going to that fair for literally years and years. But I have some Ticino in here, and it's it's a gluten-free coffee replacement, and I love it because
Cool.
it uses dandelion root, so it's nice and it's got that rich, deep flavor, and yeah, still good.
Yeah. And are you, do you, just out of curiosity, why a coffee replacement? Do you not drink coffee? Do you not drink caffeine, or just you happen to like
I don't
this?
do caffeine except in chocolate. Like, so I do have like 70% cacao. Like hopefully every day. It's kind of something I look forward to. But, but
You're preaching to
otherwise,
the choir, my friend.
yeah, but otherwise the caffeine in coffee and the caffeine in tea, they don't do well with me. Like I get jittery, I get like pretty tense musculature from it. So yeah, I kind of go for that caffeine-free lifestyle.
Cool. Cool. Well, I grabbed a host defense, mycobotanicals.
Um,
I did the turmeric immunity.
yeah,
Um,
that's a great, warm, spicy, kind of like a little turmeric chai.
yeah, it's like a kind of cool gray day here in Chicago. It's
Yeah,
fall. Everything in the past, literally the 24 hours, has started. Certain trees on my block out my window here have started to turn yellow instead of
yep,
green. And it just felt like I grabbed something else and then I was like, you know what? I need that warmth right now.
totally. Yeah, it's a great tea. I'll drink that when I'm feeling cold. Oftentimes, if the extremities, like your hands and feet, feel cold, there's some cinnamon in there. And in traditional Chinese medicine, one of the cinnamons it brings to the exterior and to the extremities, and so it's a
Hmm,
great way to make sure those fingers and toes stay warm too.
yeah.
Nice.
Jay, what about you, brother?
I'm drinking Buddha Tea's rosemary, and then I
Yeah.
added the Stamets 7 to it.
Woohoo.
Nice.
So I was kind of just,
So
uh,
how do you like it? Like I think like adding that Stamets 7 powder is like you can almost not even taste the addition of it. Like
like,
it's really neutral in its palate.
yeah, I mean, half a teaspoon, and I probably put double that because I was just eyeballing it and and so I can taste a little earthiness, but with the rosemary, it's really nice and it keeps it nice and refreshing. So I'm feeling excellent.
Yeah.
Good.
Good.
Hey, so I want to start out with with a question about. I don't think there's really we deal a lot with herbs, supplements. Mushrooms are in many ways a supplement, a medicine. They act like herbs. We use them as sort of remedies, but they also are a food.
Yeah.
And in terms of my life, in talking about food, there's not too many things that you can create a disgust reaction in, like mentioning mushrooms to a certain subsegment of people.
Yeah.
And I guess I want to say to you, please, this is a family show, but what do you want to say to people who say mushrooms are disgusting?
You know, taste and palate is taste and palate. Like if you don't like them, that's why we put them in a capsule so you don't have to taste them. I mean, honestly, it's like I have mushrooms in almost every single meal I eat. In fact, I go out and buy these big, huge lion manes mushroom fruiting bodies from a local grower. I chop them up, I saute them with like shiitake and sometimes with some oyster mushrooms. And then I put them in the fridge and I take them out and I just add them to literally almost every meal I have. So for me, they're a viable food because they do, like, especially if you cook them for a good long period of time, you have access to some of the proteins that are they're like amazing proteins in mushrooms. They're vegan, they're just super healthy, plus everything else you got in them too. So for me, they increase the diversity of the diet. They support our probiotic microflora. So they're really amazing prebiotics for
Yeah.
our lactobacilli and our bifidobacterium. And so for me, like, I think they're brilliant. Like, we should have them in our diets every single day. And and if we want, we can also use them as supplementations to really focus in on specific areas of our health and wellness.
Cool. I agree with you. I'm a massive mushroom fan, but I just thought we might as well get it out of the way because there's some people who tune in and are like mushrooms, and you know what? Uh, I'm not going
I
to
wasn't a
ruin it
big fan when I was younger, but
because of texture or what?
I don't know. I was just a kid and I was dumb. But we grind. But like I got into them because of like a ravioli al funghetto. Like it's got ground up mushrooms and like in a mushroom cream sauce and like that was just like there's no way you could not like that. So then it was just sort of the gateway drug for me. And then as I got older, more and more of my friends became vegetarian. I dabbled with it for years at a time, and now I'm like, I'd say 70%. I try and keep about 70% vegetarian, and it's like a staple now. And if you're grilling with your friends, and and you
Yep.
don't want like a bunch of soy products, in your house, then the thing to keep for everybody is a bunch of big mushrooms you can throw on the grill. It's the
Yeah,
perfect thing. It also fits on the bun. It's like the right size.
Perfect.
yeah. No, it's great. It's great. Um, yeah, so cool. I agree with that. And just out of curiosity, since you're talking about being, mushrooms as a vegan food, what are you sauteing your mushrooms in?
So I don't do it vegan wise because I love ghee as a fat. It's really great for my body. Occasionally I will use medium chain triglycerides from coconut. So I don't use a fully unfractionated coconut oil. I will focus in on those medium chain triglycerides, and I will saute in that MTC coconut source if I'm cooking for vegans or people that have allergic reactions to dairy. So
Cool.
those are my two options. Olive oil's great. Avocado oil is great. I mean, these are all just really amazing fats that also increase the gut microflora and really create a really nice terrain intestinally.
We're
Yeah.
having mushrooms tonight at my house, and there's this amazing recipe, Jerry. You got to try it. I think we should link it up below. It's a New York Times mushroom shawarma recipe. Have you?
Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah,
It's
it's so good.
it's a sheet pan recipe. You cut up mushrooms, you cut up red onions, and then you put this dry rub all over them, and then
Huh.
you put it in the oven. And meanwhile, 15 minutes and the whole thing's done. And you cut up red cabbage and olive oil, salt and pepper, and then I use these cassava wraps,
Love those.
and then you put a little sour cream and turmeric together and
Yeah,
sprinkle mint over the top, and they are just
sounds
out
good.
of this world.
Yeah.
They're
My
sort of
kids,
irresistible.
6, 4, and 2, eat
Yeah.
mushrooms when I do them this way.
Since we're talking recipes, there are a couple of like lion's mane crab cake recipes that are just
Oh,
out of this world. And like if you're doing the gluten free thing, you can get like the GF panko and like just go to town with it. So yeah, there's some really great like vegetarian, vegan recipes that incorporate the use of the different kinds of mushrooms.
Yeah,
Great.
I made a
I would
pizza
love a
last
link
week
to that or
at
just
T's
share it.
house. At T's
Yeah.
house, I made a pizza last week, like a grain-free pizza, and we did, man, it was 3 types of mushrooms on it, right?
There you
So
go.
good. Yeah.
Oyster and I don't know, it was like came in that tri-pack,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Michigan tri-pack. But I have a question for you about the way they come at the grocery store. Sometimes I can find like the like sort of wax paper bag, and then people you can put them in loose. But so often the only way I can find them is either in a thin plastic thing or a styrofoam tray. And I'm wondering, is that because of something about the water retention or of mushrooms? Is it useful, or is they? I mean, why isn't it just in a bag like other stuff?
Yeah, so actually, I think that those styrofoam and plastic containers, because there's no breathe, there's no way for there to be air exchange. It actually increases the rate of decomposition on your
Yeah, they
mushrooms.
come out sometimes a little slimy because of that, right?
Yes, they do. So if I am to buy them like that, I take them home and I take them out of those containers, and I will literally put them in a paper bag,
Cool.
because that actually, and they'll start to dehydrate in a paper bag if you don't use them quick enough, but they also won't rot in the container. So
Mm.
I mean, that's my particular approach.
No, that's
Uh,
cool.
That's good to
but
And you
know.
can always reconstitute them if they dehydrate.
oh yeah, I mean they're just dry a little, so you just throw them in your saute pan and they'll be fine. So
Yeah,
it's really not an issue.
cool. I also learned now that I did this time we're talking to you, I'm excited. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm eating them tonight and I'm drinking them right now, but I keep talking about ways to cook them. But I learned a new way to cook um, just like regular sort of baby bellas and stuff.
Yeah.
I learned a great way to cook them for people out there who don't know. Um, you can cut them up, and then I throw them in a super hot skillet, just dry. And you let them go for like a few minutes that way, and all the water comes out of them. And then I throw in butter and salt and rosemary real quick, and then stir them around and serve them right then. And it is just amazing because the Maillard reaction, like the it's just the flavor really comes out when you kind of burn the edges, dry. Anyway, so I'm excited about that. I think people should try it.
We have to have like a cooking kitchen demonstration, a demonstration
Right?
kitchen for this. That's our next goal, Jay, is a demonstration kitchen.
All
Uh,
right, let's do it.
Hey, so before we dive in, I just want to do a little welcome again to anyone who's joined us. We're talking tea time at the Apothecary today from Merz Apothecary and Small Flower. We've got Jerry Angelini, head of education at Host Defense, someone we're always excited to talk about because he knows pretty much everything about mushrooms, and that's one of our favorite topics. And,
Only someone who knew how little there is possible to know would laugh at that. Yeah.
I
yeah.
know, I know. I'm talking about for those of us noobs, you know.
Like there's some super smart like mycologists out there. I scratched the surface. But from how to use them in our health and wellness, I've been using them for about 20 years in my private practice. So I got a good feel for them, I think.
Cool.
Yeah,
Cool. What is like what right now going into, cold and flu season, and obviously with the pandemic still hitting strong. What is our best friend right now? Reishi? What are we doing right now? What does everybody need to get right now to
Actually,
like for their whole
from
family?
Host Defense, my favorite right now for this kind of like change of season. I want to engage my immune system, but I want to keep it really modulated and under control so it's not overreacting. Like I love that Myco Shield spray, and it is a brilliant formula. 6 sprays, 3 to 4 times a day. It doubles as a breath freshener. You've got 5 really amazing mushrooms: agarikon, reishi, chaga, polypore, and turkey tail. These are gonna like get your immune cells engaged, but they also strongly engage the modulatory activity. So we want a nice strong immune system, but if it's working hard, we will feel it. They have these cell signaling molecules called cytokines, and people have heard cytokine storm. We want to reduce that expression of cytokines and keep it within like a really nice like Goldilocks zone. And these 5 mushrooms absolutely do that.
I love the idea of the immune system as kind of, I mean, it's we could talk about it forever, and I think there's so much we don't know about immune system too, right? We're still learning as
Yep.
human, as a society or as civilization about how it works. But
Yeah, no, we're constantly learning. So I just gave a 90-minute lecture to the Ontario Association of Naturopathic Physicians. And we spent 20 minutes like just bringing everyone back up to speed on all of the growth in terms of immune knowledge over the past 5 years. It is extensive. It's extensive.
So, I mean, what you're kind of referring to is the idea of you have and again, I'm probably going to butcher this or oversimplify it, but like you can fight against something specific, and that's like a specific immune reaction where you have to fight something off. And then there's just the general immune, sort of a strong immune system that's less susceptible to problems in the first place. And you're talking, am I right in saying you're kind of talking there about like making our immune system generally robust, but not overemphasizing this like fight off everything that comes along in a massive, attack, right?
Right. So we have what's called the innate immune system, and this is kind of like you were saying, our generalized response. It engages at contact. There are, you've got these things called natural killer cells and these macrophages. They're big eaters, and they're constantly circulating. They're looking for things that will trigger them to put them into action. And those can overreact too, but generally what they do is when they engage, they get the system up and running. The adaptive immune system, which is like our T cells, which most people are familiar with, and B cells, they can take a week to 2 weeks to get up and running. So 7 to 14 days. And those are very specific. So they identify specific proteins on cell membranes. They create memory, so that's like our RAM and ROM, right? So this is really what the T cells and B cells do. All of them, innate and acquired immune cells, they communicate using these cytokines that we've been hearing so much about. And any part of the immune system can overexpress cytokines, especially when they see things ramping up. So if someone catches a cold and they start to feel sick, it's not technically the cold that's making you feel sick. What makes you feel sick is the cytokines that are telling your immune system to work harder. And what will then happen is when that cold, those viruses or bacteria, they damage cells, that's yet a second layer of signaling telling our immune system, you need to work even harder because we now have tissue damage from this. And that's when things get a little dicey, because now you get not just whatever's coming in from the outside, but then you have the damage to your own cells that's telling your immune system, work harder, work harder, work harder. And then you feel worse and you feel worse and you feel worse, right? And so modulation is keeping all of that condensed within what we like to call that optimal functional zone of immune reactivity.
Cool. I appreciate that explanation. That's really helpful. And it's such a fascinating concept to think about. It's not necessarily the cold, the virus, the bacteria that's making you feel bad, but sort of the ramping up of your immune system and the mobilization. And it makes sense, right? Its job is to protect you. And if you had to think about it, then we'd be in serious trouble, right? So like,
Also, it's telling you to stop doing what you're doing and let your body fight this thing so you don't keep go through your busy day and run yourself down even further, right? So it's making you ache. It's making you tired. So you say, I gotta lay down, and your body's like, thank you. Now I can just focus on this thing, right?
And it keeps you from connecting with other people so that those things pass along to the rest of the population.
Amazing.
You
Amazing.
feel bad to isolate, you feel bad to sleep and rest to get away from all of that. Yeah, exactly. I
so
mean,
cool.
it's really and when you stop and think about it, it's like, Wow, talk about like this thing inside of us that's not just trying to keep us safe and healthy, but it's trying to keep everyone around us safe and healthy too.
Why are mushrooms so good at this? Why, like, what is it about them?
Yeah, like,
That's what I
come
love about
on, man.
these
Give
things.
us the real scoop.
They're so cool. So mushrooms have a whole range of different compounds. There are some compounds, they engage the immune system. So they actually function like flags telling the immune system you need to work harder. But then there are a whole nother set of different compounds, and there's like we call them terpenes, we call them phenols, and you may have heard like phenolic compounds, they're antioxidants, and all of these compounds modulate the immune response and keep it from overexpressing. So you've got two actions that are simultaneously bolstering up immune activity and making sure it doesn't get out of control. So you have this really beautiful kind of like a sandwich effect, um, which is
So
it's
that's what
really
I mean. That's why, as a whole food, you want the whole thing, right?
you want everything. You want the root system, you want the fruit body, you want, in fact, that fermented substrate, as long as it's edible. You don't want to, you can't eat wood, but if you're growing your mycelium, which is the root structure, on rice or grain, you can then eat the roots, the grain that's fermented. It's just like fermented like food. It's like your miso, your kimchi, or your tempeh, plus the fruit body, and all of it together is very, very active at creating that sandwich-like effect.
That is, it's so cool. It's really so cool.
Yeah.
I guess the way I'm always fascinated when you talked about sort of Jay said, all right, you get sick to make yourself heal, and you kind of took it to the societal level, which is like, get away from everyone, because let's be honest, we are, you know, our genes want to continue their proliferation in the world, and they probably care less about us than they care about the species, right? I mean, like, I know there's not a they to care, but like their job is to get farther down the line and to do it as a species, not necessarily Anthony's genes, right? Like, and so
Yeah, so this is a great philosophical point. We could dive in. There's this great research on something called the holobiome, which is we're actually not individuals. We are a society and amongst ourselves. Without our probiotic microflora, we would not be alive, in fact. So there are key nutritional vitamins and substances that our microflora also create that we would not live without. So we're not individuals, uh, and so we are in fact this society that lives within a society that lives in a greater ecosystem of the planet, which then lives in a greater ecosystem of the solar system, and so this experience of interconnectedness just gets exponentially larger.
yeah, you sound a little bit like, in a good way, in a more natural way, like Lawrence Fishburne in The Matrix right now, or something
Yeah.
like that. You just explained to me that like everything I thought about me as an individual is not true.
Well,
And
also just
I
like the
just swallowed the
fractal,
reishi pill, right?
just like the fractal nature of like of everything. It's no, it's that makes sense to me when you say that. Actually, that intuitively makes sense to me, because I feel that. And then I think we have lots of examples where we look, where the best option to lay something out or do something imitates another aspect of nature, where it's been obvious, sitting in a circle. I'll just say, like things like as simple as that. Why is that like an amazing? Well, you can go out in nature and see a million reasons why circles are incredible, right? Like.
Yeah, and part of the reason I brought it up also is that you sort of took it to a place that, at least in my understanding of mushroom and mycelium, it's like that's how they work, right? They're
Yeah.
sort of the communication network in the ground. And that's kind of where I wanted to go with this, because that I never lose fascination with this topic. So can you kind of talk a little bit about
Yeah,
that?
please tell us about the language of the trees.
Mycelium and mushrooms are just, they're these phenomenal substances and beings. Uh, the role of many mycorrhizal species, or even like polypore forming species, is really they are able to shuttle nutrients across vast distances in forest ecosystems. And if you guys are Lord of the Rings people or Hobbit people with the Ents, you know, the shepherds of the forest, this is really the mycelium. They're not trees, they're actually the mycelium that they literally shepherd and shuttle nutrients, glucose, minerals. They break down stone, like, so mycelia secrete organic acids that can break down minerals, liberate them, and then shuttle them across vast distances within forest ecosystems, so that also nitrogen, like we know that, you know, there are these huge trees that are growing, and in reality the soil nutrients can be fairly poor in forest ecosystems. And so they'll take nitrogen from, you know, the rivers and the streams, and they'll shuttle them in deeper into the forest, glucose. They're just really these phenomenal beings. They break down carbon, they liberate it and move it through these vast ecosystems as well. They also balance the microbial diversity within soils, and you can often find numerous um, um, mycelial strains that will they will in fact filter out things like E. coli and then eat them as a nutrient source, thereby clearing out like E. coli from an ecosystem as well. It's like they're these like really cool, we don't have a clue, we really don't. And they really, without fungals we wouldn't be here. They create topsoil that things can grow in so that people can eat. Like, so without fungal ecosystems we wouldn't have food, period.
Yeah, I think that's a point worth just repeating, because I think, you know, if you grew up, I'm open to this stuff, and I still kind of like grew up thinking of fungus as a pejorative term,
Right.
right? It's like we all do. Oh, there's some fungus. So you've got fungus on your toes. Fungi are, we need them. It's like the backbone of life on this planet. It
Yeah,
seems
Well,
well,
like.
it's like a
everyone
lot
gets
like
focused
bacteria.
yeah,
Bacteria was a bad
exactly.
word as a kid too. It's like, you know,
It's probiotic and pathogenic species, right? So it's just like that with fungal, and everyone focuses on the candida, or they focus in on black mold, and those are bad things. There's no getting around that for sure. But it's like a small portion of what we can in fact have access to. Aspergillus oryzae is what you make miso with. It's what you can make vinegar with. It's a it's a sister species to Aspergillus niger, which is one of the black molds, or Aspergillus flavus, right? But their sister species, one is super amazing for us. The other two, not so good. Again, Saccharomyces boulardii or Saccharomyces cerevisiae, these are yeasts, brewer's yeasts, right?
Yeah.
Candida is a cousin. Like Candida albicans, all three of those are in the same family. So family, genus,
Wow.
species, right? One's not so good. The other two are brilliant for us, right?
Yeah.
So it's just with like the mushrooms. There's some out there that you do not want to eat. So don't go into a woods and just start picking mushrooms. Do not do that. That's not good, right?
Yeah.
If you're with someone who knows what they're doing, there's a great field guide. You can, you know, test for spore prints, things like that. If you do it safely, absolutely. There are amazing mushrooms for us to ingest and eat. And they can, in fact, help remodel our gut microflora. So for the people that are like, oh, the candida, it's like, well, reishi can help increase lactobacilli and bifidobacteria in your intestinal tract that can crowd out candida from what we call docking spaces intestinally, and help change and remodel that gut microflora. So it's not the reishi doing it. The reishi feeds our probiotics, and then our ecosystem resets itself. So it's like,
So
this is
cool.
brilliant stuff. Like
And I
reishi,
mean,
mushroom.
that's immune system on a different level, right? You're talking like having a good balanced microbiome in our gut is, I mean, that's where
Critical
health
for
begins, right?
gut. Gut immune response is it's like 70% of your
That's
immune.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's super cool. You're getting me excited. I don't know. I would say I eat mushrooms pretty much every day. I think today's the, ironically enough, is the one day that I didn't have mushrooms in my lunch, but I'm getting hungry for some mushrooms. So
But you're drinking them. So.
I
Right?
am drinking them.
You
Yeah.
are right. You're getting it for
What
sure.
is how can we, um, you know, in the city especially, we have these patches that are not often worth making huge. You can't make a big garden or anything, but is it possible to have like a cool little urban mushroom garden?
This is where you have to be careful. So mushrooms hyperconcentrate anything they're grown in. So if you have soil that has like oil or gasoline or has been sprayed or has industrial runoff, you're going to want to be super careful. You can get your mushrooms in there to remediate the soil. I would be hesitant to eat those mushrooms after I grew them there. If you can get like organically grown wood chips and you want to do your own kind of like box
Box,
setup,
yeah.
knock yourself out. Great.
Cool. And
Uh,
where do you begin with that? Like where can
um,
we find out?
yeah, so you would get what's called spawn or culture material from, and this is where you can have a lot of fun. Like if you grow Stropharia rugosa annulata or SRA. It's this big, huge garden giant. If you grow it in a box kind of a setup where you have complete control over the water and the wood chips, those are amazing edible. If you grow them in the ground, they will remediate your soil profoundly. Um, oyster mushrooms, same thing, profound remediators of soil. Grow them in a box, knock yourself out, eat those. Those are delish.
Mm,
Lion's mane, you can do the same thing. So with those are your edibles, right? And I definitely suggest, and even shiitake, it's a great mushroom. I tend to stay away from portobellas and white button mushrooms. They're great mushrooms. It's just in a store-like setting. Um, you have to make sure they're organically grown, right?
okay.
For your beneficial mushrooms like the reishi and like chaga, you're not going to really eat those. They'll also take a little bit longer to grow, but you can do those in a box-like setting too. They tend to like really dense carbon sources. So,
And then
you'd,
what would you do with that afterwards? Would you make extract or what could you do with it?
oh yeah, you can totally extract that for
Just
sure.
soak it in alcohol or something or what?
Um, yeah, so it's a little bit more complex. You're going to do an alcohol extraction for about 2 weeks, and then you'll take that fruit body material and you're going to decoct it. And so you'll do like a simmer for about 2 days in a crock pot. And you just want to make sure that the amount of alcohol you have, if you're using like 95% alcohol and water, is about equal ish. So you want to get about a 40% alcohol solution at the end when
At
you
the
add
end.
them
Yeah.
together.
Cool.
And that's really a lot of it has to do with making sure you have all of the compounds from that reishi fruiting body, that you get a beneficial engagement and modulation.
That's cool. For those of us, I think Jay is the kind of person who would definitely like do this, and it would be a fun project for him. I kind of want to return for a second to something that people might, given the season, you've talked about the Myco Shield being one of your favorites, just to
Yeah.
keep that immune system in the sort of in the ideal zone, the optimal zone. Let's say someone gets sick and starts to notice like what else should we have on hand, maybe from Host Defense this season, and sort of why?
So elderberry plus syrup, it's a brilliant, brilliant formula. It's elderberry concentrated juice, elderberry extract, and then chaga and turkey tail mushroom. So this is it's gonna help protect cell membranes. It's gonna help provide you with some really beautiful antioxidant activity. It's gonna engage the immune response. It's gonna help.
This is for if you're starting to feel sick, or just okay. So is there something like sort of daily?
Stamets 7, you're drinking it right now. Like that is one of my favorite, like Stamets 7, Myco Shield are my favorite daily supports. If you're in contact with lots of people, Myco Shield. If you're still just working from home, but like you go to the shopping market and you do some stuff outside, Stamets 7 is perfect for you. 1 to 3 grams a day of that Stamets 7. If you really want to zing your day, get 3 grams. Use the powder, 1 measured teaspoon, and that canister will last you for a month. If you just want a gram a day, get the capsules. Take 2 capsules in the morning. It'll power your day.
Cool.
Elderberry for upper respiratory wellness. If you're starting to feel a little under the weather, that's great. The other thing, my community is like one of my favorite, and we've got liquid and capsule for that. You can do 2 capsules 4 or 5 times a day if you're really starting to feel pretty horrible, and that's going to really strongly engage your immune response. It's going to get it up and running. The liquid I love because it's super easy. When I feel really poorly, I'll do like 1 dropper full in a little water, like every hour as I go through my
I'm
day.
a fan of that. Thankfully, I haven't been sick in a while, but that's sort of on my list. Whenever I'm like, I'm feeling a little weird, I grab a bottle of that and just like know that I'm carrying that around with me. Basically.
This is which one? The comprehensive immune?
Yes,
Yeah, I love that stuff. We take that goes into my youngest daughter's bottle. We just put 10 drops a day into that bottle, and she's just, because we didn't have any other way. She couldn't really swallow. She had some issues, so she couldn't really swallow solids, and so we couldn't get most stuff to her. And then we were going into the flu season last year, and we're like, got to get her vitamin D, got to get her mushrooms. I'll feel good if we can do those 2 things,
One of the other things I want to ask right now, everyone, we're obviously talking about immune system, but could you maybe talk about something that in my mind is very related, and that is stress support? I'm super stressed right now for, business software reasons, but like also the world.
We're super stressed. So we've got 2 awesome products. We've got Stress Decompress and Complete Calm. We also have a tea, actually. It's called Peaceful Mint Tea. It's really pleasant floral. Some chamomile and lavender and rose. So it's got a really great fragrance to it. The Stress Decompress is reishi and lion's mane, and these are going to help pull us out of that fight or flight mechanism. It's going to, without sedation though, and that's really important. And then it's skullcap, lemon balm, and ashwagandha. And these are all some of our nervines that help quiet the mind a little and quiet the heart and the body, so we're not getting that like revved up feeling. Ashwagandha is an amazing adaptogen, so it does calm things down yet gently energizes. So that formula, people can take 2, 3, maybe even 4 capsules a day if you're really feeling stressed and out of control. But that's to like gently energize you as you go through your day and pull you back off of that like fight or flight edge, so to say.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's exactly
I was kind of interested, I take one of your products before I go to the gym, and I take cordyceps before I go to the gym, and it's kind of like, it's funny actually how much more oxygen you feel like you're getting, because everyone around you, like, I feel like I'm doing more reps than everybody, and I feel like they're all winded, and I'm like, I'm good. What are you talking about? Like, it's ridiculous.
Now we do have a cortichi too, and you can use this to modify your response to stress. And But this is for people when, if they're stressed, they like feel like they can't move. Like they get stressed and they get stuck in their chair. So the stress decompress is for the person that's like, they get stressed and their mind goes on like hyperdrive. If you're stressed and you can't like get off of the couch, Cordici is brilliant because it will energize you, but it also takes you out. It's half cordyceps and half reishi. So it'll pull you out of that fight or flight mechanism, like you're feeling like, oh my God, I'm so stressed. But it also energizes you so that you can actually engage in your life. So those two are really important to understand the difference. The
Yeah,
third
no, that's
one,
huge.
yeah, the complete calm is to get you to bed at night. It that will help you sleep. And it has reishi and lion's mane in there for sure, but it also has like skullcap and California poppy and holy basil and so this is the complete calm. You take a teaspoon, you add it to that peaceful mint tea about a half an hour before bed, and you're done. Like you're out for the you're out for the night. It's
I need to bring
really
that home for my daughter. I have a daughter who's, definitely, she has a hard time just like getting down,
yeah.
So,
And so that's going to also help the person that's lying in bed going, oh my God, I have this to do tomorrow. I have this, and this is happening right now. And I'm super stressed about that. So like for depending upon how your brain responds to stress, if it goes into overdrive, a complete calm for bedtime, stress decompress during the day. Um, if you're a person that goes like you turn into a couch potato, then Cordici to really get you going, but also to help you manage that stress experience.
that's one of the most interesting and important distinctions that I think we often fail to make, because we talk about stress as if it's one thing, but it really is the reaction that the person has that can be so different, right?
Yeah.
And I just, it's like one of these things that makes me endlessly fascinated. Like, people are so interesting and amazing. The fact that the same thing could make you have one reaction and me another,
Yeah.
is really, I don't know. I'll never get bored with that. So
And you'll in fact find this in the same family, right? So you'll know that like you'll, if you have a big family, you're like, oh yeah, this one responds like this and that one responds like that. And you'll be like, okay, so we give Cordici to the one that's like, like that can't mobilize, and we give stress decompress to the one that's like, all right, you need to take it down a notch. Right?
I don't know anything about that, but I know I can imagine some people who do. I think I'm always at the perfect notch. Personally.
My family's great.
Yeah.
There's one other product I think we can talk about, especially as we're going into winter. The brain and body formula. And I particularly love this because this is going to be really helpful for like joint movement, like for when people get those achy joints and they feel stiff and they don't feel like they can move well. This is going to really help people with their neurological system. So it really gets the brain and the nervous system functioning in balance. So it has lion's mane and reishi, and it has turmeric, ginger, and cinnamon. So this is going to help with like maintaining blood sugar levels already within the normal range. It's going to help joint mobilization and grace of movement. It's going to support digestive health. It's going to be great for people that get extra cold, especially on wet, rainy days. You know what I mean? When you want to feel like you need a little bit of fire in there. You take a teaspoon of that. I add it to unsweetened coconut milk or almond milk, and it tastes like chai. It's delightful.
Nice. That's awesome.
That's a great, Jay, unless you have other questions, I think that the idea of a warm cup of chai that has all that support for our bodies and our brains is sort of a great note to go out on. I guess, anything else aside from mushrooms, if you want to, I'd love to hear maybe what is your best non-ingested practice that you do for keeping yourself in the right place, both, mentally, physically?
Yeah, so I practice Tai Chi and I do meditation. So I do both. And I think these are critical. Stress in and of itself engages an overreactive immune system. So there's a lot of great research on this. It triggers all of those cytokines, the cell signalers that make us feel bad. And so when we participate in meditation and movement meditation like Tai Chi or Qigong, and my practice is a Qigong practice, where you're breathing, you're like really focusing on that breath. All of these have been shown to down regulate stress and down regulate those immune hyperreactive responses. Um, it's tough at first. I've been doing them for 20 years. So for me, it's second nature, but you don't start at 20 minutes a day. You start at 5 minutes a day, right? And you do 5 minutes, hop onto YouTube, do a little research on the different styles, and then just follow along. We're all working out of our homes, right? We're all doing workouts in our homes. YouTube, you're all familiar with it. There's a lot of great references and resources out there.
Yeah.
Start with 5 minutes a day. And like, you just got the key to meditation isn't doing it perfectly. It's doing it. It's just sitting down to, even if you sit there for 5 minutes and like, I hate this, and then say, okay, well, I'm here, I'm doing this, I'm gonna hang out, I'll just sit for 5 minutes. My mind is going crazy, it's okay. So really the key is the gentleness that we talk to ourselves while we're doing it.
Yeah. I'm Jay and I both do meditation, and I would say that has been such a lesson for me, is this idea of one of the biggest lessons of meditation has been this idea of self-acceptance. I live my life being hard on myself about the things I didn't do and wanting perfection too often. And I really, I was struggling for a while with perfection in my meditation. And now it's more like, oh, notice I'm like that. Oh, notice this is me. And for a while it was, this is me and I don't like it. And I feel like, I'm not saying I never don't like myself, but more and more it's coming down to like, oh, I guess my job is just to continually notice that this is me. You know what I mean? And that's the practice I have, is like, hey, remember you're like that. And it does come back to me during the day when I'm starting to get upset about something. I'm like, hey, remember, this is you. This is how you respond. And then all of a sudden I'm able to like step back and kind of view it from the outside.
Right. It takes us out of that fight or flight response. It takes us out of that, like, I need to respond to, oh, I could respond here if I wanted to.
Cool.
Jerry, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for
Always
everything.
a pleasure to be here, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Next time you come on, I think we should do the almond milk with the mind body.
For sure.
Yeah. And Jay, maybe if we don't have our demonstration kitchen fully set up with all of our Wolf appliances and everything that's going to sponsor us, then you make something ahead of time and we'll just eat it and talk about it. That'd be good.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sure. Next time, what I'll try and do is I'll try and get my hands on a really big lion's mane mushroom and have it ready so that you can see it live.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
Right?
Yes. All right. Until then, hey, we wish you, Jerry, we wish you, good, healthy fall season, and we can't wait to talk to you again. And to all of you out there, thank you for joining us. Please check out Host Defense. We'll link up everything Jerry talked about. If you have questions, you can reach out to us. And we're wishing you a joyous, peaceful, mindful, healthy fall.
Likewise. Be well.
All right.